I was in the police force for 25 years. The police is full of corruption.
Why didn't you report this corruption at the time?
Officers would stitch people up all the time by lying in court.
Did you never think that this might actually catch up with you?
There were officers that had sex with prisoners in the cells.
I wanted to be a police officer. It makes me feel sick.
This man, Wayne Cousins, right? That's a dangerous man.
Do you need to have a bit of ego to be a police officer?
It's all about the ego. It's an ego-driven career. You end up with power. You end up with the power over people's liberty. You have dominion over them.
What made you want to become a police officer in the first place?
I'm a very sort of friendly, approachable person, you know, and I generally care, and I always have done.
Why are you wearing a mask today?
For my own protection. Whatever I say will be scrutinised, it will be transcribed, and they will look for any chink, legal chink in my armour to come and get me. But the public needs to know what's going on.
Could you talk a little bit about when you first started noticing corruption within the force?
Well, I didn't see corruption during my months of initial basic training. The moment you hit the street, bang, you start seeing corruption.
So what kinds of stuff did you see?
There was a lot of sexual stuff that went on. The women, some of them had a hard job. Sexual assaults on them was very commonplace. There was a tradition when a new girl joined the police, the uniform this was, that they had to station stamp her. These stamps, it'd have the force, the station and the date. She had to get that stamped on her arse. So they'd get hold of her, either pull down her trousers or lift up her skirt, bang.
I'm really shocked that it remains so secret. Because you'd think, in the other world, it would be like sexual harassment claim one after the other.
Yeah. There were officers that were starting relationships with prisoners. There's officers that have had sex with prisoners in the cells. There's officers that have gone round to victims of crime, you know, use their position to have sex with them.
It is sad because they're meant to be protecting these people and they're actually just abusing them.
A guy I joined with, he was actually running brothels. There was one guy who, on the way to a meeting, went to a cash machine, there was a woman begging, and he got the money out, got 20 quid out and gave it to her for a blowjob. That's people using their position of trust for their own perverse ends, you know. These police officers were very predatory.
Could you sort of list the types of corruption that you saw regularly?
Yeah, there was so much physical violence in the force. It was a war zone. Someone had been assaulted and the officers realised that there was CCTV. It was covered, the venue was covered. They stuck it in a microwave because that would destroy the content that's on the tape.
Or does it go into evidence?
It would just go back into the CCTV controller of that venue. The other thing that you get is bearing false witness. Officers would stitch people up all the time by lying in court. But you'll just be given a book, an evidence book, about that big, and it'll be thrown at you, and you're told copy that. Just make sure your name's different.
My dad was in the police for a long time. I wanted to be a police officer. I always thought that they were wholly good. It makes me sad to kind of hear some of the things that they were doing. To me, it just doesn't seem right.
To ask for help is seen as weakness. You become isolated from the rest of society very, very quickly. Alcohol is a major problem. Again, back then it would just smell of stale alcohol in the morning. Years ago, but cocaine was a big, big problem. There was a lot of people doing cocaine. One unit I was on, one guy was sniffing it in his locker, and they want to be like the gangsters because they see how they live and they want part of it. And this is where I started seeing organised corruption. Officers selling information to drug dealers, to organised criminals, stealing from searches.
Do you think chasing criminals and that's your job every day and focusing on what they're doing can actually kind of turn you into one?
I don't genuinely believe in the police force people start off with a corrupt mindset, and money's addictive. Once they start getting that regular income from corrupt means, it's difficult to turn it down.
Did you feel guilty witnessing some of the corruption that was going on?
When it was people that didn't deserve it, but on the whole, I didn't really get caught up with these big units, so I kept my nose out and left it alone. Years ago, the complaints unit were there to basically get rid of the complaint.
Or did your colleagues feel that you were above the law as police officers?
The ego gets the better of you. You could basically do what you want.
Was it something that the police force were trying to deal with?
They never dealt with it. It was swept under the carpet and it was trivialised as well. And they make a joke of it, they make light of it.
Why didn't you report this corruption at the time?
I reported corruption when it happened, but I was threatened, you know, and I lived with the threat for a while and it frightened me. So when you are a target for them, anything goes. They will send the hounds to rip you apart and they will not stop. There was no support and you would be ostracised as well. You would be a grass. They have damaged my life beyond repair. Whistleblowers within the police are a rarity.
So what kept you there?
It's a fantastic job. You know, it didn't end too well for me, but it is a fantastic job. It really, you do make a difference in people's lives, you do.
How did it make you feel when you saw the Sarah Everard case?
It was shocking to watch. There was a massive fade-in straight away. Alarm bells would have been ringing early on. There would have been an audit trail. People that worked with him, he would have had a reputation of being a bit touchy. I don't think it was any surprise to those that really knew him that he did cross that line. This guy, days prior, had twice been caught flashing, and that was the one thing. The moment I saw that, I remember ringing up an ex-colleague and saying, this man is a murderer. They should have profiled this guy, without a doubt.
Would you say that the majority of corruption is the force's fault?
I think the employer needs to understand that when people go into this world, they're going to change, and it might not be for the good, and they need to address that and stop putting it down to personal liability. When there is corruption, it should be the institution is to blame.
It's kind of got to the stage where even my nan is sort of questioning, you know, she doesn't trust the Metropolitan Police, and if it's getting to the stage where my nan's not trusting, I mean, it's understandable why I wouldn't trust the police. And really, until these root causes are addressed, you're only ever going to be fighting a losing battle.
I think the police have totally lost their way. I'm seeing things in the press and thinking, oh, this is crazy. What are they doing? Most of the officers I've dealt with aren't corrupt. They're good people. They are good people. They are misguided. My problem is with these rotten apples that are in there and how they are protected, and they are.